Welcome back to another race analysis, and this is the first race back after my little off at the car park climb when I suffered a AC separation and ended up in hospital for a few days and off the bike for a bit longer. So I've done a few races since this, but this is the first time I've really tipped it in a criterium. And so I was really a bit worried about where my head was going to be at for this one, and I got to say it was not a fantastic day to get back to crit racing. There was a strong wind from the west, I guess, right to left along the finishing straight, and a really strong left to right along the back straight. And to cap that all off, it's been raining overnight. But I figure I might as well get out here, have my first race, get my head back in the game and see how the legs are feeling. Now, to get all my excuses out the way right at the beginning, I'm just at the very end of a base phase. It's my third base phase in a row, and so I have absolutely no kick in the legs. I can tootle around at 220 watts all day long, but really struggling with anything much above threshold at the moment. And with Super Series coming up in about 5 weeks, that's something that I really need to pick up soon. But anyway, we've got 5 weeks left for that. And here's the first crit to really test the legs. And you can see right off the bat we're on lap 1 and we're already strung out in a full left to right echelon across the course. Now, fully a third of the field didn't finish this race, and another 6 people who had signed up didn't bother starting. But by the time the race started, the sun was out, and although the course was quite wet, it was a really nice day for racing. I don't mind a bit of wind, it makes for interesting racing, which is especially important on this long course. There's a long straight, Formula 1 style straight down the back, and then coming into this corner, everyone is super nervous. You can see no one's really pedaling until they hit the corner, and it's at the end of a long downhill. But even so, the corner's really wide. You can hit it at full speed. You can pedal all the way through that at just about any speed. And as the race goes on, you'll see people getting quicker and quicker around that bottom corner as the track dries out. Coming back along the main straight, I'm sitting at 500 watts, and I'm still really struggling to hold the wheel. And I've got to say, I'm really worried at this point that, first race of the season, I'm doing 500 watts and I can't hold a wheel. Is this going to be the end of my race at the end of lap 1? But fortunately, it cools down a little bit, and things get into a bit of a rhythm. Now, one thing you can see is that right from the get-go, I'm actually struggling to hold wheels, not just because of effort, but I'm just not feeling comfortable riding right on people's wheels, leaving lots of gaps in front of me, riding with a diamond space clear in front of me. And it's definitely something, here I'm moving up on the unprotected side rather than sort of trying to ride in the line and get a draft all the way up. And it's definitely something that early on in the race I was finding I wasn't comfortable with, but fortunately that was something I came to terms with pretty quickly. I also figured out how to take this corner. Honestly, you don't need to stop pedaling through this corner. Take the pedal pre-line, turn late. If you've started the turn, you've started turning too early, and you can just pedal all the way through it and maintain a lot more speed. It's definitely not the shortest way around the corner, but it is the smoothest, and it, I guess, just keeps you coming out at a higher speed than if you take the apex. And you can see at this point I was dropping down well below 300 watts just before we hit the hill, sitting nicely in the draft. Anyway, a few laps later, I made the first of several mistakes in this race. Now, I've been sitting on Frank's wheel, and he's brought me all the way up to the front. I think there might be maybe one guy off the front. No, there's nobody off the front at this point, and all I'm thinking is that we're going pretty quick, and for some reason or other, I take a turn. Now, I think in my head at this point, I'm thinking, Frank's just on a massive turn, I probably should do something, and maybe I can justify it by saying I'm splitting the race up, or making it hard for everyone else, or whatever, but there's so many diesels in this race. Frank is an engine. Dermot, who's behind me, is an incredible engine. And so putting me on the front just to pull a turn when I'm not chasing anything back is just stupid. Old mate Jeff from NorCal would always say, if you're on the front, what are you doing? Whatever you're doing, you should always be able to say why you're doing it, and I certainly couldn't say why I did that little turn on the front. And I'm paying for it, up to 183 beats a minute, so I'm going to have to take a bit of a break for a bit. Unfortunately, I think I try to slide back in, but when Dermot kicks up again and no one pulls through after him, I fill in the gap because there's sort of 5 or 6 riders up ahead that could go on and make a break, and then I'd have to be chasing it rather than sitting in it. Nothing comes of it, but I wasn't willing to take that chance. And then literally less than a lap later, I'm still on Dermot's wheel. He comes through to the front and I pull a turn. I think I decide I'm going to gutter it. There's a strong left to right here. I mean, I'm not that far over there, and I think I flick the chicken wings and try to get someone to pull through, but there is absolutely no reason for me to be sitting on the front right now. Having said that, I have apparently made a bit of a gap behind, but with no one pulling through with any speed, it closes up instantly. Now, we're 2 laps later, and we've actually already lost at least 4 of the guides in this bunch. And I've looked back, and I've seen that I'm at the back, and I was quite surprised at how few people were left in. At this point, we're down to 16 of the original 20. Anyway, I decided to move up on the... We were sort of slowed down a bit, so I'm going to move up on the windward side. Some of the big guns that I try to keep an eye on, like Frank and Peter and Dermot, are a bit too far ahead of me, and I'm not going to be able to respond to them. I see this move going up with 2 guys jumping, but I can also see some of the really strong guns still in the bunch. And with more than half of this race to run, I'm just going to keep rolling through in the bunch. Once again, I take this bottom corner really wide, pedal the whole way through it, and just come out feeling like I've expended no energy in the corner rather than having to sprint out at the other end. But what is important from that little move is that 2 guys get a little bit of a gap up the road. Now, I've got Frank on my wheel behind me, so I can see there's only 2 up the road. I've got some absolute guns with me, so I'm not too worried about it, and I'm just going to keep rotating. But then this happens. The chase, which is being led by Oliver Ward in the Sassy kit, kind of gets a bit muddled with Nick Clark here in the red. He's not going to pull through. He's got a teammate up the road, plus he's a sprinter, so he's not going to want to be chasing back a break himself. But as a result of that, I found myself sort of shuffled a little bit to the back, and rather than sort of seeing what was going off the front, I'm now having a nice little chat with Nick Underwood right at the back of the race. We're talking about how wide that corner is. It's 5 metres wide. You can go into it as many deep as you like. Why are you looking for the apex? And I completely missed that there were 2 or 3 people more jumping off the front, and those 2 get across to the guys up the road quick, smart. But that's alright. I'm still in the main bunch. There's still, I don't know, 12, 14 of us here chasing. We've still got some of the real powerhouses. And then unfortunately, from right in the back, I can just start seeing the pace ramping up and more people jumping across to that break. And what I'd completely failed to recognise is that 2 joined 2, and then 2 more jumped across, and then all of a sudden there's 6 up the front. And that includes it includes Peter Burgess, it includes Dermot Nichols, it includes Frank Smith, it includes all of those diesels who can make a break stick. And the problem is now that's not the break, that's the group, and we're the group off the back. And you can tell from how ragged people are looking that we are not going to be able to work well together. We're all over the road, no one's taking steady turns. And you know what? That's game. This group never gets back to the front. And we just simply cannot organise ourselves. We are coming out of the bottom corner 4 wide. No one's pulling through smoothly. I'm yelling at them, come on, rotate. And I'm not getting any coherency in this chase. So I get on the front and I'm going to do a turn. Olme from Butterfields comes past me. He pulls a really good turn. But he also comes past pretty hot, like I was still doing 380 watts in the wind, and he rocketed past me. And he's gapped a bunch of other people, and so now the people who are coming through are already gassed coming through. I figure I'm fresh enough, so I'm going to take another turn quickly to try to keep things smooth. But as you can see from my power, I haven't got enough to really force the issue. I probably should have slotted back in a few wheels back, and then I'm flicking the elbow and no one, I think I was flicking the elbow, but no one wanted to come through, and when they did come through, they came through fast. This guy from Butterfields, he was strong, but he pushed, and you can see he's got a big gap. There's no one in his wheel. I don't know if that's his fault or the guy behind, but this is a mess. This is an absolute schmozzle. I'm definitely flicking the elbow now. I'm trying to get off the front, and we're ripping ourselves to shreds in the chase. Here's another example. William Brown, this is his 2nd race of the day. He raced in the juniors and now he's smashing it in B grade. He pulls through and Nick Clark can't hold the wheel, and so I'm sprinting to try to get back on terms. I'm doing 400 watts just trying to get to the front to do a turn, and I mean, putting aside that Nick Clark up ahead of me doesn't actually give a draft, so it doesn't really make a difference if you're sitting behind him or not. I'd had to do a whole lot of work before I'd even got to the front. And this is where I make my last mistake of this atrocious race. I don't want to get off the front before this corner because I want to go through this corner first. I like it. You can pedal all the way through. You can see my power hasn't dropped down from 300 watts and you can come out smoothly. And I'm hoping that everyone else will come through behind me. But then when I do eventually flick the elbow, I am properly gassed. And then we hit this little rise here out of the bottom corner. And as people come past, I am completely cooked. And I said at the beginning, I don't have many punches at the moment. I've been doing too much bass, or too much bass, but I've been doing a lot of bass, no VO2 max, and so I just was seeing stars. And that was the end of my race. They didn't pull me, and I was able to trundle around through to the finish, but you can see how quickly, 200 watts is all I've got at the moment, and they are disappearing up the road like a flash. So as soon as I was on my own, I had no chance of getting back on, and that's all she wrote. About 4 laps of torture later, the front group passes me. They're down to 5 right now, so obviously they've dropped someone at some point. I've managed to make it back into the 200s for my power numbers, but it's on the same lap. It's not even that far gone, and Group 2 passes me as well, so they've lapped me. And what pisses me off is not long after I dropped, they figured out how to work together. William Brown's doing a spectacular job. It looks like they're keeping it pretty steady. And Group 2 actually gets within 6 seconds. William Brown, gets within 7 seconds of the front 5 by the end of the race, within another 2 laps. And James Hand, 079, he's another 6 seconds back as well. So once I got shelled off the back, they actually did perhaps settle down and start working together a bit better. So maybe it's me that's the problem. Anywho, I didn't enjoy that, which is to say I loved it a lot. I'm really glad to be back out racing crits again. I think with 4 or 5 weeks of training, I'm going to have a bit more punch, and hopefully I'll be able to survive some of the crits early in the Super Series. Got what I wanted out of the race, a good turnover of the legs, and honestly, a bit of confidence back riding in a bunch. So if I can do that on a windy, wet race, first time back after a significant shoulder injury, I can't wait to see what I can do when we're back to full strength. So hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.